Shirley here with Sirius Talis Moon and Venus Day Moon Hour, Venus conjoining Moon at 0 degree Virgo. Recording. Um, and naturally, it is the point of inconjunction, so it is squaring Uranus, in conjuncting Pluto and Saturn Neptune, and conjoining Regulus. So, while sextiling Mars, that's ruling the midheaven. Midheaven conjoining Black Moon Lilith and the ascendant conjoining Pluto. Now, this is going to be a bit of an open diary episode while I take a look at chart of Gordon Thomas. And I do not have an ascendant for this chart, but we do have the date of birth. So a little bit about Gordon Thomas. Um, I will begin to tell it that way. If people around me, friends and enemies, would ask, um, what would Shirley be like if she was a middle-aged British man, they'll probably go somewhere around Gordon Thomas. Um, and I'll explain. First of all, I'll begin with my own mishap. Um, I tend to political assassination prevention. This began when I was what I now understand was called a targeted individual for my academic work, um, activism for peace work, and maybe stepping away from apprenticeship at the Palestinian Israeli Chamber of Commerce. I mean, there were several reasons, but um, and another mishap is of course that I do astrology, which is the upside down to interviews, and apparently, according to I don't know if it's true today, but the Mossad is the only intelligence that has a prepaid assassination squad. So I guess I'm no less of an interesting story. Um, but this is Gordon Thomas was an independent British journalist that would interview people and work with the Mossad and CIA and so on, but he never worked for. Now, let me break the news to you. Each and every person, content creator, or inscription to your dear diary, sexual fantasy at night, is working with the intelligence today. Um, leader or person, okay? And how I got to Thomas' chart, basically, there was an episode on Stranger Things, or the internet version of it, about the occult research funded by the CIA. I may have colleagues there. um, while I'm bitching about the personality cults. Anyway, um, and they mentioned the name Gordon Thomas because he was looking into the CIA research in occult. That spiritual welfare dumbfuckery that people are dealing with, zeze, okay, it's that. But we have to remember that the wealth families consolidate their wealth by things that, if you listen to Annika Lucas, you will know more about. And that, knowing that, actually caused me to put on hold a wealth family legacy manager that wanted to be my friend on social media. So um, it looks like a gigantic opportunity, but I was more concerned about the associated rites and rituals, particularly when people confess they are Grand Masons. Um, so I do openly talk about my input and my value, which is probably heard, and that is something that would be unbelievable. Because if you would try to get to, let's say, the wealth families or the financiers, you would have to go through oats, rites and rituals, and then end up on an Epstein list, and boom, 9/11. Alternatively, you can talk to yourself in your own room and you're heard. If you have speech disability, no problem. You can simply think. So let's take a look at chart of Gordon Ramsay. Um, he wrote a lot of books that were translated to a lot of languages, about the history of the Mossad, about the CIA. Everybody thought he was a spy, but he was actually not agreeing to work as a spy. Very smartly so. All I have to say is a person who does astrology, who is not estranged to journalism, as a person of the word, all I have to say to you is don't sign, don't agree, definitely don't take oaths, um, and always maintain your sovereignty. If God forbid you got tortured or got I don't know what or targeted, there's no value to anything you would be saying there in terms of consent. So okay, so that means that you never consented, and that's important. A lot of these places work as personality cults. A lot of them try to guise themselves as spirit guides or ancestors. And for me, I came from academia and I did a channeling experiment, um, not really knowing what I am channeling. And understanding, one of my essays was about the politics of the senses and the topic of us having the sovereignty to explore our own psychic abilities, um, and nobody can politic our senses or decide for us what to pay attention to, what to see, what not to see, and so on. Um, so let's take a look. First of all, look at this beautiful Virgo stellium, and I ran into this chart 2 days before a partial solar eclipse in Virgo. Neptune Ketu is a person that definitely would have an intelligence background, not in the sense that he was an intelligence, but in the sense that, first of all, he may have been, according to evolutionary astrology, may have had an incarnation as an intelligence person or even mafia person. Um, that he came from being a person of the word. Um, Mars in Virgo is investigative journalism. Mercury Pisces of intelligence with intelligence. Wait, I need to sneeze. Bless me. Jupiter, thank you. Jupiter in Virgo retrograde, Mars retrograde, Neptune retrograde, which would give us a person that would have to create their own direction in life. I also have a Mars retrograde on the 22 degree of Scorpio, and I tended to political assassination prevention. My way, okay, not as a part of anything. Uh, and it's not from an ego perspective, it's just like I needed to build what is compatible for me. So this is a person who would have to do the same. And this is how we would get an independent journalism that definitely would agree to investigate people that the intelligence is interested to know about, but he would just interview them as a journalist. Um, Mars is this penetrative act, um, and Mercury is interviewing. Mercury Pisces with Rahu, Jupiter with Ketu. Again, this is a person that had let go of a physical incarnation manifestation of actually being a spy or a mafiosi. Because what's with Ketu doesn't materialize so much in the physical. For example, I have Ketu in the 10th house. I do this podcast. I'm not currently like making money from that. It's absolutely my career and legacy, but it's not something that I derive my income from in any direct way. And so Mercury with Rahu in Pisces, investigative journalism to do with intelligence topics. Um, Again, he would have a Rahu return in the coming year. Sun in Pisces, Sol Rahu, a prominent figure. Um, Now, when it comes to the paranormal, the Neptune Ketu ruled by Mercury Rahu. Rahu, first of all, is into the paranormal in the sense that what Rahu is materializing, but it is the father of manifestation. And anybody that delves into their Rahu is a place where people haven't been before. And I'm actually going into my Rahu maturation, and there is a lot of integrating the wisdom of where we came from, what comes natural to us, what we don't even have to think about. For example, astrology for me, and um, moving forward into materializing something where, for example, for me, it's the topic of wealth and big wealth, but correction of housing and wealth and owning houses and the funding and owning of the motherland um, is a topic. And I do tend to wealth families consolidation rituals. And so um, when one of the things that I practices that I do is pay emphasis on my daily life, because I understand that I would need to accommodate for that or would need to fund for that, and taking the time to practice a certain lifestyle or a certain um, making a contribution, and then looking into what that entails in terms of resources, policies, and so on and so forth, rituals, and so on and so forth. So it requires a person to be in touch with the fact that their reality is already existent, even if they don't see it. It's an entrepreneurial. Rao asks us to go to an entrepreneurial. And in that sense, it's very much in touch with the paranormal, because what we need to discern is that it's our manifestation and incarnate the manifestation that we want, rather than something that is dictated from something that is undivine or ungodly. So in that sense, looking into the research around the paranormal integrates both his Ketu and his Rahu. And a lot of people didn't believe him as an astrologer. I am certain I have colleagues that are in these projects. And as a person that tends to political assassination prevention, for example, I just woke up this morning I think around the 30th of March, we're going to have the Saturn Neptune on the world degree. And what I saw was an ear alluding to somebody being taken down, and it looks like Trump. Now, I don't know if this is a prediction or this is somebody that tries to create a timeline around that. Um, but just, okay. But also as a person who tends to those topics, I also tend to the ethics around the psychic and the implication around the psychic things, again, independently. Very much continuing on Gordon Ramsay, Gordon Thomas. People want me to call him Gordon Ramsay. What more can I see here? Uranus Aries in a T-square with the Moon and Pluto. Uranus-Pluto square to me is Cold War. Not because the Cold War began with the bisextile, but there's just something about the Uranus-Pluto square, and even the intergenerational gaps between the boomers and the millennials have to do with the Pluto-Uranus square and with the effects of the Cold War. And indeed, he was researching during the time of the Cold War. I don't know how to explain that, okay? It's just something that I noticed, and I don't know how to explain that. There's something very revealing, because Uranus is in a crisis of revealing Pluto's secrets. And there's a growth friction between Pluto controlling intelligence, but also purgatory, to Uranus, liberation, rebellion, um, and Kundalini rise. So it's a closing square with Uranus and Pluto. In fact, during the Me Too, we had Uranus in Aries, um, around the same degree, but squaring from with Pluto being in the opposite sign, which explains a lot to me how Gordon Thomas was able to get into the nitty-gritties of intelligence and the paranormal, the taboo topics that nobody talks about, while maintaining his sovereignty. Uranus Aries is about Kundalini rise that is associated with the sovereignty, and the Mars here with investigative journalism, having to pave his own path. Yeah, very very similar, different aspects, different yogas, but very very relatable timeline. Chiron conjoining Beta Persei, which is conjoining Israel's sun. Um, that would be, yes, he lived until 70. He died in 2017. But definitely he would be tending to the wounds of the leadership. Yes, he very, very clearly stating the Mossad is the only intelligence up until his days that has a paid assassination squad, I call it, which is a wound around Israel's leadership, namely prime ministers is our most representative. We have president position, but it's mainly, yeah, Herzog is in WEF every now and then and gives pardons, but that's pretty much it. The diplomatic relations are done with prime ministers way more than presidents in Israel, but that would relate to both. Lilith, Uranus is going over the Lilith um, of this chart, Lilith 2-degree Gemini. Moon opposition Pluto, remediated, by Rowan Ketu. Mooney, the prepper deacon of Capricorn, would tell me of an emotionally resilient person that knows and prepares very well um, for his task. Saturn in Aquarius, conjoining Venus in Aquarius, Saturn in his home sign, Venus sextiling Uranus, but Saturn here is in splendid isolation. Again, I don't know which house it is. There's a very strong Saturn. It's the Saturn of the architect. So this is a person who would know to design or to be the architect of whichever field that would touch around his life. It would be interesting. We had a lunar eclipse that was conjoining the Mercury of this chart. A lot of people have been affected by those CIA researches on the paranormal and dark occultism. And again, they need to practice against people, and those are usually civilians. I myself have been dealing with that, which led to me talking about the civil war in the CIA and MK Ultra, and it's actually had to do with often, MK often. I don't know why often, um, but this I called it the second frontier. But this is basically what it entails. And a lot of my videos actually, because I was targeted, a lot of my videos are a telltale of what is the implication of those dark practices, um, as well as, um, yes, that they are a wealth block to the wealth families consolidating wealth with them. And I think nothing more if people like Annika Lucas that talked about, the mind control. Um, we have growing awareness of the result of what they call spiritual warfare and the implications, okay, and the ethical implications, but also the practical implications um, of what it does. And I can say from my own experience, I said, okay, Falcon, like there are many intelligences, and I didn't even know which intelligences was to be very honest. There are many intelligences. Eventually, people are looking for sovereignty, sexual sovereignty, connection to their own creative power, creating, making a life while making a living, knowing that they will have, you know, a beautiful place to be. Um, and that's what people want. Okay, that's what people want. It's non-negotiable. The nature begins to try to compensate for itself, um, and the more that people look into taking financial responsibility or taking responsibility over their well-being, the more they unravel those things. Um, and again, nothing beats sexual sovereignty and sovereignty on all levels, which is important to financial freedom. Nothing beats sovereignty. Okay, you can the easiest people to govern are sovereign people because they govern themselves. And the wealth consolidation that is built on control tactic um, is practicing its own demise because it's a wealth block. All of these tactics are based on bringing the energy and frequency of a person down to a level, and this down to a level is basically creating a wealth block and then trying to take their energy, um, which will be, it would create anomalies, and those anomalies either will have to bounce back to the original creator, or they would have to make the change in the world that would accommodate for the original creator, not sacrificing the original creator. And by that I mean the individual. So, um, and the occultists that practice those things will have to revise their rituals to support sovereignty. Otherwise, they get caught red-handed. And now, while they were being funded and perhaps given money for that, now they are, from the point of view of the financier, um, are being looked at as a wealth block unless they adapt. Okay, going back to the topic of political assassination, if you talk about the financier that finances all kinds of ideologies, and to quote Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller, saying, if I am basically funding the infrastructure on which a country is made of, and it basically they kind of like depend on me for their fiscal existence and existence. I don't if I control their money or control their wealth or control their fiscal ability to exist, I don't care who's the president. I don't care who's the prime minister. So as per the financiers, any political assassination can happen. I, as a person attended to political assassination prevention, listening to testimonies of ritual abuse survivors, survivors of the wealth consolidation practices of the financiers, and basically, okay, putting, even being afraid to negotiate before I see a concrete change that is supporting sovereignty in the wealth consolidation, which I think is a great achievement of the testimony of people like Annika Lucas for the new generation of wealth. And listening to ritual abuse survivors is always a way to 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 become a better business person, because as per the financiers, it doesn't matter who kills who. Anyway, those killings are created in mind control codes and violation of sexual sovereignty of both the assassin and the shooters. And from the business point of view, all that matters is, um, does it affect the business? Um, And so this is why, for any business person, I believe listening to Annika Lucas to her podcast is a top tier training that you will not find elsewhere. And listening to Gordon Thomas, and perhaps listening to my humble content, but also to people like Light on YouTube, who's a channeler, and she really deals into the nitty grittiness of those psychic things that are done, and the witchcraft that is done, and the effect of that, is a top tier financial training, business training that you will not get anywhere else, and it's for free. It's out there in the world for you, um, to understand, and to also understand that anything that is controlled, if the fist is, if you make a fist with your hand. And I really like to thank Freya when I was standing to the release of Julian Assange, and I was given my contribution as an astrologer, but there were other deals behind my back that were, would be considered, I believe, rape at court, by the merit of me not consenting, to not knowing that certain things were filmed or something like that. Um, and while I was standing to that, I saw Freya on Facebook, Freya that lives in Lapland, northern Lapland. And on that day, there was this fist, and she made this channeling about letting go of the clenched fist. And if you think about money as energy, the clenched fist is a fungal structure in the making, which basically means that fungal structures need to be tended to. I'm tending to my own inner over yeast growth in my own body, and I can tell you, it's a shit ton of investment in oils, it's a shit ton of investment in food, it's a shit ton of investment in, sometimes taking the time to practice, to meditate, to do the life changes needed, for all the years that I have been, for very good reason, dissociated. Yes, it's not about blame or shame, but tending to a fungal structure once created is tending to something that took a lot of years to create. Releasing the grip creates movement, and money is energy, as money is energy. So all the practices that are based on torture violation are creating a clenched fist that is basically antithetical to wealth, and causes a gigantic demise on the wealth families that fund those practices, because money is energy, is money is energy. So this is something that I think is going to be very useful for people. People like Gordon Thomas. Maybe I need to do a chart of Gordon Ramsay. I don't know. Gordon Thomas. Again, people don't like when people speak about him because he exposed something that I think entire humanity is eligible to lifelong compensations, because those things, okay, psychic rape, psychic torture, targeting of individuals in a way that is not visible to the naked eye. But by the way, my phone got it because it's frequency, and the phone would have the screensaver according to what it's seen next to the person, and it basically the grapes are basically symbol for rape, and several times when those attacks were on me, I would later open my phone and see the screensaver being on grapes. So like I said, I predicted that technology is going to be making those things visible, and the people that do things behind gloved hands get caught red-handed. That is not an ethical practice to practice. Okay, intelligence, not intelligence, is not ethical practice to practice. It's not only a war crime, but it's a crime against humanity. Um, and there are also the natural world of the psychic realm has its ways. Okay, it has its ways. Um, People say all in the hand of the divine. One could look at it as nature tends to compensate. Okay, you drop a pack of beavers in a desert with a small stream of water, they're going to rewater the place and revegetate the place because they build dams. Okay, you kill an entire population of beavers, the place might be desertified. So think about the psychic realm. Okay, if, for example, the impact on me is that I'm spending a ton of money. Now, some of that, I have to admit, I never took probiotics before. So probably I needed to take probiotics. Probably would be better not by being astrally raped. Okay. Um, and I tend to my toenail fungi, which connects with the teeth and connects with overgrowth of yeast, which means that I need to funnel my money, basically to eat well and so on and so forth. So there is actual physical trajectory that shows what measures I had to take to basically begin to recover my own body while defending myself from attempts to rape me as I speak. This is happening to leaders. This is happening to politicians. This is happening to literally business people. It's happening to literally anybody you can think of. And it's true that those people also had to be a part of rites and rituals that are not of a benevolent nature. And in those rituals, they were both victimized and had to be perpetrators. So, yes, those dark occultistic practices um, are basically inspired by Nazi ideology. The Nazis used to practice that. Still, continuation of Operation Paperclip. Still, the Nazi practices. But as per the financiers, this is a tremendous wealth drain, tremendous wealth block, creating something that would really, really have to be um, eradicated, because otherwise, Pluto out of bounds is not going to be ending up well for those that fund for and are associated with that. And very simply put, the people, the creative energy will go elsewhere, and the attempts to steal the people's creative energy would end up with having to build a world that would accommodate for the people that try to sacrifice, um, using all the wealth and resources that of the planet that were meant to be confiscated from the people. Or alternatively, yes, tremendous side effects um, from doing those things, and the attempt to sacrifice like people on a lower rank to do that. Those that work behind gloved hands get caught red-handed, and that includes the money's energy is money's energy. So, Gordon Thomas, okay, this is a person that definitely looked into the studies that continue today, and for a lot of you, this is a very important name. Um, because we can, and for those who are ritual abuse survivors, our leaders under assassination threats, the only thing to tend to is the wealth consolidation practices, to support people like Annika Lucas, to support people that come up with the testimonies. Those same old treason calls don't work, but also the survivors begin to have practices that change that reality, and beyond belief opportunities to deal with things, whether it's extortion or whatnot, are open to those that are willing to change their lives or desiring to change their lives. What is closing, the door that is closing, is those type of trajectories, those dark occult trajectories that are basically soul depriving rather than life nourishing.